This is KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guest today is artist Sarah Clemens. Sarah, welcome to KCCK.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We're actually taping this a few weeks ahead of when you're going to see it, because Sarah has been in town as the artist guest of honor for the Icon Sci-Fi Convention, which was back in October. But we're going to be talking about an art exhibit that is continuing to run, so it made sense to grab you while you were here, even though it was going to be a few weeks before this would actually air. So first off, as I said, you were here as the artist guest of honor at the Science Fiction Convention. The astute listeners and viewers will know that I have a little bit of an interest in things sci-fi and fantasy. Do you do a lot of sci-fi conventions and things like that?
My art goes a lot more places than I do. I sit at home, lonely little artist, painting my paintings, and then make prints of them and send them out to the various conventions. And happily, some of them have wanted to have me to come as artist guest of honor, so they fly me out, and I get to party serious with everybody for the weekend, and get to meet people who are fans of the art, and which is very gratifying. But I would say, all in all, my art definitely gets to fly more places than I do.
It gets to journey further more often.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about how you ended up in making this kind of art that has the sci-fi and the fantasy bent. I'm guessing that in art school that there wasn't a specific track toward sci-fi and fantasy art.
That is uncannily correct. I got into these visual images before I could even read. My father was a longtime reader, still is, of science fiction and fantasy. And he used to get several of the science fiction magazines, which had wonderful covers, very narrative quality. There's a lot of storytelling going on in the covers, usually from a story inside the magazine. And I would look at the pictures and go, "Daddy, what's this about?" And he would say, "Well, make up a story." And my theory at this point is that he just wanted to, it's like, "Go away, kid, I'm busy." But we would put our heads together after he'd read the magazine and see how well I'd done. But artists like Ed Imschweller and, some of the greats from that period really shaped my mind. And, it's a funny, the way that you don't realize until much later. It's like, wow, this man had a lot of influence on me, just looking at these covers and having my little tiny mind blown.
Did they kind of try and beat those ideas out of you in art school, though, or were you encouraged to do wherever your imagination took you?
Well, I did sort of get a vibe like, when are you going to get on track and do some, quote, real art, unquote.
When are you going to do the real stuff?
I did, yeah. They were pretty clueless. In my first 2 years of college, I mostly just learned the tools for drawing and painting and design and color theory, which set me up pretty well. And then when I got into my junior and senior years, where I'm supposed to start really manifesting my statement and, finding my voice, I was also very realistic in my artwork. And I got this vibe, it's like, well, it's all well and good that you can draw so realistically, but when are you going to start doing some real artwork? And being a callow youth, I just decided, or I figured at that point that, well, maybe I'm just not cut out to be a real artist. So I actually switched majors to art history, which didn't turn out that badly. It's given me a lot of wonderful references and, a deep base of knowledge that I can draw from in my work. But years later, I was able to circle back around and get back to the things that I love the most, and realize that they were pretty wrong, and that it occurred to me much later that the real purpose of a good art teacher, or any teacher, is to find out what their student wants to do and help them accomplish it. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't go off and try other things that are completely outside of your experience. Try doing an abstract expressionist painting, even if you'll never do another one. Give it a try. But that they should say, well, okay, you're doing really well realistically here. Let's see how I can enhance what you're good at, and how I can make you the best you are at what you do and what you want to do. And I really wasn't getting that out of the art teachers. So I think, without even realizing it, was probably a wise decision to go over to art history, where I got a really good education in things that have served me well.
Talking with Sarah Clemens about her art and also about an exhibit at the Cedar Rapids Museum of Art, which we'll dive into here in just a minute. You are most well-known in the sci-fi and fantasy areas and on your website with your pictures of Magnus and Loki.
Yes.
Tell me how Magnus and Loki came about.
Okay, we moved from Florida to Arizona, and we needed to adopt another cat. It's just one of those things. I've always been a cat person, and we needed another cat. That's just
Sometimes you just need another cat.
Yeah, it's just a categorical statement. And so we went and adopted one from a shelter. I'm very big on that. I really truly believe in adopting the animals that need it the most. And we found this adorable kitten. I mean, he was cuter than the law allowed. And we got him home, and after he grew up into this magnificent 18-pound, apparently Maine Coon cat. I mean, who knows what his genealogy is? He was a stray. But he was so goofy and wonderful. I just started thinking, because my mind works that way, that he should probably have a dragon companion. It would be fun just to draw a piece with a cat and a dragon together.
And we should say that the dragon is little.
Yes.
He's cat-sized.
Right. He's a little smaller than Magnus is the cat. Excuse me. Magnus is a cat, and Loki is a Norwegian spear-tailed dragon. You might as well get specific.
That's right.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I actually wrote an email to a Norwegian fan group and said, I have this Norwegian spear-tailed dragon I want to develop, and I would like for him to live in caves near the ocean. Where in Norway would he come from? And they wrote back, well, that would be in the so-and-so region. I can't remember off the top of my head. But that's a wonderful thing in science fiction. No one goes like, what are you talking about?
Why are you asking me these stupid questions? Nobody ever says that.
Yeah, they just immediately, what you'd want for your dragon is this area here. They got back to me the next day. It was just wonderful. But anyway, so the two of them, I did this one painting. It took me a while to figure out the names, but they just sort of fell together, and they have a nice quality, a nice musical quality to them. And I did a painting of the two of them watching a bird out the window, and it did really, really well. So I thought, And so I did another Magnus and Loki, and another one, and so on. I've done something like 23 Magnus and Loki paintings, and I make the prints, and they have their followers. In fact, Magnus and Loki have something like 3 or 4 times more friends than I do on Facebook. They have their own page.
Oh, they're just delightful, and I love how in your representation of them, it's very obvious that Loki's the straight man. And he's always, Magnus is always getting him involved in stuff that you can tell he'd just as soon not be doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I try to work it both ways, since Magnus is the cat, and, what I like to think that they use their evil on the side of good. And that, sometimes, one of them is more awful than the other, but, they share in the shenanigans.
So you have some pictures of some artwork of Magnus and Loki up in this exhibit, which is called Out of This World, and it is continuing actually through the winter at the Cedar Rapids Museum of Art. It's the first time, as far as anybody knows, that a exhibit at an art museum has been in association with a sci-fi and fantasy convention.
Yes,
and
it's so exciting.
And it features, it's kind of grounded in artists who have been guests of honor or involved with the Icon convention at various times.
Yes.
Although I don't think exclusively. But you, during the convention a few weeks ago, you actually you performed as a docent and took groups through and talked about each of the paintings or the artwork that was in the exhibit. So now, having done that and having had a couple of days to kind of digest it, what's the 1 or 2 things in the exhibit that just really stick out in your mind as being really special?
The fact that so many of us got to this through conventions and through just loving what we do. There's a lot of love in that art, and you can see that the people in that exhibit doing that art are very happy doing that art. I'm not always sure I see that in some art. This, young, earnest students do what they think they should be doing. Most science fiction artists, I think, do what they want to do because they love it, because it is a special niche, and generally speaking, you're not going to get super rich in this field, so it has to be one that you choose rather than it choosing you.
So What's next for Sarah Clemens?
Well, every now and then I have to take a break from the fantasy and paint a few realistic things. I've taken while I've been here in Iowa, I've shot some beautiful pictures with the fall going on and, you know, the lovely rolling landscapes and the beautiful farms. So maybe I don't know. I'm not going to go all Grant Wood on you, but I may try to do some kind of
rolling hills with spaceships.
Right, there you go.
And our Norwegian spear tails.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah, or there's going to be some kind of Iowa dragon out there.
Sure. I'm sure we have a native species.
Yeah. But I do some mainstream stuff too, and you know, being of a photoreal bent, every now and then I just have to stop everything that I'm doing and just paint something that's photoreal. I just did a picture of a log with some moss on it. I was just very happy. It took me 3 or 4 days, and it just makes me happy to do these things. And next, for Magnus and Loki, I was thinking of doing one called Magnus and Loki Archaeologists, where they're poring over the Book of the Dead in an Egyptian tomb and completely oblivious to the fact that as they've recited those words behind them, a mummy of a dragon has burst out of a sarcophagus and is like lurching toward them, just right out of the classic Hammer horror movies.
If people want to know more about your art, what's your website?
Clemensart.com. Clemens like Mark Twain, and art like, well, art. Well,
it was great getting to know you at the convention. I'm so glad you've had a chance to spend a little time afterwards in Iowa, and I, for one, am looking forward to checking out your website in the months to come and maybe see something that has been influenced by what you saw here.
Oh, good.
In addition to more Magnus and Loki, of course.
Yeah, and you know, please contact me through the website and tell me what you think. And
right.
I'm open to any and all suggestions. Don't always follow them, but I am certainly open to them.
And again, the exhibit is out of this world. It's at the Cedar Rapids Museum of Art. If, as we get closer to the holidays, if you have family in town and want to take them to something that is fun and a little bit unusual, and you've thought to yourself, I'll never get them to the art museum, well, you probably will be able to for this. It's just it's a delightful exhibit. It's fun. Everything from Sarah's art to book and magazine covers to other original art, even some comic book art.
Yes, some very fine comic book art.
Sarah Clemens. Again, your website is?
Clemensart.com. Also, you can go to magnusandloki.com if you just want to look at Magnus and Loki's stuff. That's Magnus and A-N-D, Loki, L-O-K-I.
All right, Sarah, thanks so much for coming in. Again, it's been a pleasure having you in Iowa, and hope our paths cross again sometime soon.
Oh, my pleasure entirely. Thanks for having me.